So it's my pleasure to be here. There were several people that twisted my arm a little bit. The first email I had was from Jack Dunnigan. Wanted me to come here and speak to you all, and then Stanka Willis, and then Jan Newton as well. So they didn't have to twist my arm very hard at all. I've been involved in IUCE basically since its inception, and I was a little nervous at first, not understanding what IUCE was all about. But as soon as Admiral Lautenbacher put out his annual guidance memorandum saying that IUCE was cool and something that we should really do, helping us take the pulse of the planet. And so I understood what was going on. Next thing, I met Molly McCammon, and I was hooked. So I was on the AUCE, the Alaska Ocean Observing Board, and everything else is history. So thanks to Molly for encouraging me to go to D.C. when that opportunity came forth, too. I don't know if she was tired of me or thought maybe I could help a little bit more in D.C. Our hosts, thank you very much, Microsoft Research. What a beautiful campus you have here. It's a great place to be. And also the co-sponsors. Again, I'd like to thank the co-sponsors, Seabird Electronics, Sonodarn International, Reed Exhibitions, and of course, NANUS, the Northwest Association of Networked Ocean Observing Systems. Much easier to say NANUS and IUCE. And then we all joke about the oozing of all the regional associations, right? So we are facing interesting times, and we are increasing our understanding of the oceans, the atmosphere, the land, all the time. And this has led to excellent advances in our ability to forecast and warn the oceanic weather and the atmospheric weather for you all. But we don't always get things right. When I was in Alaska, I always had the weather right, though, because we hardly had any verification observations out there, so the weather was always right. Days like today, though, make me think of when I was an aviation forecaster in Alaska, and the photographers would call and say, "Here's the weather I need." And I would say, "Well, here's the weather you're going to get." And they would say, "Well, here's the weather I need." So we continue to struggle with knowing exactly what's going to happen with the weather. But partnerships like you all and through IUCE definitely has helped us advance our ability to forecast the weather. 2 weeks ago, Brad was not being applauded and clapped for when the Seattle area was hit with the winter storm and the ice storm. Snow on Wednesday and then turning over to ice on Thursday. So the storm actually wasn't a surprise, though. We were doing webinars and briefings over the weekend before the storm actually hit. There was uncertainty in the amount of ice we were going to receive, and that was really what the surprise was the magnitude of the storm and how long the storm was actually going to last. Our forecast models didn't anticipate, again, the magnitude of the ice. So the ice is what really fooled us, the private meteorologists, and researchers. We did get back on track quickly, using our real-time observations, the profilers, our new coastal radar. Exciting to have that coastal radar out there showing us what was going on. And, of course, the automated system observing systems. We worked with Puget Sound Energy, and that's important to work with folks like Puget Sound Energy to make sure that their folks who were out trying to restore the power could do that in a safe manner as well. So they were facing dangerous high winds as they worked to restore the power to the thousands of customers who were out of power. It's always difficult to forecast here, just like in Alaska with the coastal terrain and the mountains. Back east, they say it's hard to forecast as well because of all those, well, they call them mountains, but they're kind of like those rounded hills they have back there. But it's definitely a challenge as well, particularly when you have storms coming off of the ocean, the nor'easters we have back in the east. And so, again, pinpointing those temperatures and other factors, whether you'll get ice, snow, or wind, is really important to have an understanding of what's going on over the ocean. Over the past couple of decades, investments in science, technology, strategic partnerships have enabled us to overcome some of the obstacles and greatly improve our forecasting. For example, IUCE and NANUS now have in the water tremendous amount of information that's fed to our National Data Buoy Center in Stennis. In fact, I was down there visiting them last year, and the amount of data they have now is unbelievable and has improved significantly since the Indian Ocean tsunami, December 2004. Another great example, again, is the installation of the Northwest new coastal radar last fall. I saw some of the advances at Brad's office yesterday. I went to the weather forecast office and saw how that was able to show really where the rain and snow line was in the exact position. Unfortunately, that's the real-time data rather than being able to help us forecast it hours and days in advance. We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go. What else might have helped us with that ice storm? One thing we found almost immediately in the assessment that Brad and his office did was our models did not capture the extent of the precipitation that formed over the Pacific Ocean. It would help immensely to improve our atmospheric observations over the ocean. One of our major challenges is to integrate the ocean, the atmosphere, and our coastal observations at all scales. The new Doppler radar on the coast here provides advanced technologies in data collection. However, the radar can only see a few hundred miles out, and as you know, those storms are often developing and moving in from thousands of miles away out at sea. Integrating these multiple collection platforms, satellites, ocean observing systems, coastal buoys, high-frequency radar, that would significantly improve our predictive capabilities. Our partnerships have enabled us to integrate these capabilities, particularly the mutual benefits of our IUS partnerships and what that can bring to us in the future. There are strong national and international needs as well. You know, last year we experienced the year of extremes, we were calling it. Over 1,000 lives were lost. So we had 14 individual billion-dollar events related to weather. And those economic losses totaled $50 billion. Even though in the weather enterprise we are performing well, Joplin was really the catalyst for us in regards to developing an initiative called our Weather Ready Nation. We did a great job of forecasting the tornado that impacted the Joplin area. In fact, they had 24 minutes of lead time, but still 160 people perished. So why are people still dying if our forecasts are so good? Through strategic alignment of partners like you all, we'll be able to better get the information of these forecasts and warnings to the last mile. How can we communicate the information appropriately and minimize the loss of life and property? None of us can improve and provide the Weather Ready Nation initiative alone, so we've got to value our collaboration and the partnerships. The private sector research and innovation that Rob talked about, investments in new technologies and research institutions, all that add value to the work that we need to do, again, to build this weather-ready nation. I know that oceanographers often envy the meteorologists' wealth of observations, but meteorologists, particularly marine meteorologists, are always observation-starved. We want more observations, and the more we can get, the better our forecasts and warnings will be. We have a couple paths to take. One is to continue doing what we're doing now, doing the same things. Ironically, it is Groundhog's Day today, and so Bill Murray may have had it right. But those of us that are here in this room, we're not going to accept doing the same things over and over every day. We're going to choose another path and push forward to continue to improve despite the constraints imposed upon us in these difficult economic times. We are all observation-starved, but observing systems are expensive. That makes our partnerships all the more important. Where we're not only leveraging each other's expertise, we're also eliminating redundancy, reducing uncertainty, and ensuring the maximum value for each system. So where are we now? Our current capabilities were fueled by your visionary decisions made in the past. Strategic partnerships and sophisticated instrumentation have resulted in our greater understanding of the interactions between the oceans and the atmosphere. And I'm so thankful that I'm talking to such a diverse group of individuals out here. Typically, I'm talking to a bunch of meteorologists. Sorry, Brad. But that's really what we've got to do. We've all got to come together beyond just the meteorology community and make sure that these partnerships are leveraged. And we're understanding better the linkages among the land, the atmosphere, and the oceans, and how these influence each other. IUCE observations provide data that enable Weather Service to run models and create marine forecasts, advisories, and warnings. In some regions of the country, all we have are wave observations. The forecast offices are provided by IUCE. Overall, NOAA National Weather Service platforms operated by IUCE partners and NOAA's National Ocean Service provide 78% of the data that the National Data Buoy Center has. So it's pretty amazing the amount of information we're able to compile and pull together. We in the weather enterprise are keenly appreciative of how knowledge of oceans has improved the meteorological modeling and forecasting. For example, Hurricane Irene, our track forecast was right on the money. We have greater lead time in understanding and detecting the storm development. In fact, the storm actually made landfall near Morehead City, North Carolina on Saturday. On Monday, we were trying to get Dr. Hayes on the flight of the P3 that would penetrate the storm. And I actually had to go on the website, the Hurricane Center website, and say, let's see, it looks like the storm might be named Irene. I think you're going to be flying into Irene on Friday, Jack. And that was the storm he flew. So that's pretty amazing that we knew that storm was out there 7 days in advance and pretty close, almost right on track to where it made landfall. Now, in 1999, I was the warning coordination meteorologist in Morehead City. That's when Hurricane Dennis, Floyd, and Irene, devastation has kind of followed me, so it's not really my performance, it's just that devastation has followed me along my career. At any rate, Hurricane Floyd in '99 almost took the same path that Irene took, but unfortunately, we evacuated Florida, Atlanta, South Carolina, North Carolina, all up the eastern seaboard. We evacuated. Thankfully, Irene, we knew she was going to pretty much go right into North Carolina, so the number of evacuations was considerably less, based on our ability to forecast the track, again, 7-8 days in advance. Another extremely important benefit is that we are able to avoid those unnecessary evacuations. Think about how information increased people's safety. Not only are we providing more time to prepare for storms that hit, we're avoiding, again, those unnecessary evacuations that are so costly. In addition to quickly developing weather events, oceanic information is also helping us understand longer-range phenomena. Our knowledge of El Niño and La Niña events, for example, is helping with predictions and with connecting individual weather patterns. These events that we've seen here in the Northwest are very typical of a La Niña event that we've been in for a year now, and we are expecting to continue. The IUCE community in the Pacific Northwest have provided significant help regarding coastal hazards through the high-frequency radar network and other observation platforms. These observations, in conjunction with the National Weather Service meteorological data, give us improved capability to predict the fate and transport of hazardous spills and improve the forecast for Puget Sound, for the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the Columbia River. We still have to build these already strong partnerships. As we increase our knowledge of systemic influences, we also look at how we can optimize the mix of the observations. Currently, IUCE bring partners together to enable access to buoy and meteorological data from academics, commercial, and other local providers. This happens partially through federal dollars, but it also leverages a variety of other funding sources, so it's not just federal dollars. This, of course, decreases the costs of our work, but again, provides that valuable information so we can have accurate forecasts and warnings. We capitalize on this even further. For instance, with the investment in IUCE, buoys can be supported in strategic locations of key modelers. So when I was in Alaska region, the partnership that we had with Molly McCammon, we were able to move one of the buoys in Prince William Sound and make it a multi-sensor platform. Now granted, that costs a little bit, and so we can't do that throughout the entire network, but it is some things to continue to think about. I find it fascinating that in the future, our model forecasts may be improved by physical and chemical oceanographic observations brought to us by fleets of salmon, seals, sea lions, amazing technological breakthroughs that we had never thought of before. Effective work in our partnerships can also help us understand and mitigate the impacts of weather phenomena on coastal ecosystems and economies. So our current need is still this vision of a weather-ready nation. We're always looking at how we can do better, no matter how well we're doing, because we recognize the impacts that weather forecasting have on people and our infrastructure. The ice storm caused power outages, canceled flights, which I think Stanka was prepared to sleep on the floor here in Seattle, she said, business closures, etc. People look into the forecast to make decisions affecting their safety and their livelihoods. We're excited about our partnership with IUCE, what it's done, and what it can do for helping us build a weather-ready nation. The end goal is to help people make better decisions with better information, so again, we can save lives and livelihood. The Weather Service part is to provide accurate information and help people act on it, to make communities resilient to weather and environmental impacts. Being a weather-ready nation goes beyond preparedness for storms and climate issues. A high portion of the U.S. population, as you well know, live along the coast now. I think it's 51% of the population live within 17% of our land. It's clear that we need more information, more observations from oceans in order to protect lives and livelihood. A weather-ready nation initiative enables integrated environmental services that support both healthy communities, ecosystems, and the support of NOAA's vision of resilient ecosystems, communities, and economies. The National Weather Service and other NOAA line offices are working in partnership with IUCE to address weather-dependent events that impact the public health, the coastal ecosystem, and coastal commerce. Harmful algal blooms and hypoxia threaten aquaculture and commercial fisheries. Pathogens threaten our health, recreation, and public safety. So as I heard yesterday, let's get that beach closure out the day that we need the beach closure, not the day after we need the beach closure. These hazards, combined with other ecosystem stressors such as climate change, ocean acidification, threaten our lives and livelihood. IUCE partnerships contribute critical infrastructure and observing capabilities that address these issues on the local, regional, national, and even international scales. An IUCE coastal observing model testbed is under development with the aim to accelerate the transition of science and technology in the coastal hazard prediction. Life, health, property, and the environment can be better protected against storm surge, harmful algal blooms, and hypoxia as the testbed helps us put knowledge into operational services. Last week, I was in New Orleans at the American Meteorological Society. So that's like our weather geek convention of the year. It is really cool. But I prefer the diverse community I have here today. But seriously, New Orleans is still recovering not only from Katrina, but also now from the Deepwater Horizon Gulf oil spill. During Deepwater Horizon, cleanup made very clear the cross-influences of weather, water, and the influences on people and the ecosystems. In fact, the Coast Guard said that weather drove their operations. The first thing they needed to know was what the weather was, so they could then determine what operations they took throughout the day to incorporate the rest of your expertise. The situation had major impacts on ecosystems affecting commerce, tourism, and health. The cleanup required great efforts from a large number of partners. Workers capping the leak needed weather forecasts for lightning storms, hurricanes, and even severe heat. IUCE provided the high-frequency radar to track the movement of oil on surface currents. Industry's product innovations, such as the underwater gliders that we saw in the demonstration, provided data to track the movement of the oil through the water column. All this information was vital to effective decision-making during the spill. The National Weather Service is eager to continue this partnership. We also need our system partners. So I'm looking forward to this workshop to provide key information that will help get us closer to the vision of a weather-ready nation. A weather-ready nation requires regionally scaled collaborations and observations, data delivery, and product development. The needs don't stop at the regional or national levels. As I mentioned, we recognize the need for more data in the atmospheric observations over the oceans. Our National Center for Environmental Prediction, which is where the IUCE testbed will be, they are performing global ocean and atmospheric modeling and real-time data dissemination that enables IUCE research and regional and local modeling efforts. We continue to establish international partnerships as well for remotely sensed ocean data. The better our global observations, the better the benefits throughout the world. Again, taking that pulse of our planet. So in closing, the IUCE partnership has provided us with extremely valuable data. Maintaining the system and pushing improvements forward are important. Our collaboration is strong. Our partnerships include those with IUCE and the industry, giving us observations and together creating effectiveness in meeting our regional stakeholder needs. Most of the IUCE regional associations, which I know there are 11, work with the National Weather Service forecast offices. These collaborations provide data and model output for our forecasts, the delivery of buoy data through the National Data Buoy Center, and the joint development of products and services. IUCE is a strong partner, and we're pleased to kick off this workshop and explore how it, and regionally NANUS, can strengthen and optimize our efforts. I'm excited about this workshop and what it can accomplish to push our already strong collaboration and introduce new facets. I'm looking forward to finding new ways we can collaboratively build a weather-ready nation, and we need you to help us. Thanks again for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you this morning, and I look forward to building a weather-ready nation. Thank you. I don't think I've ever gotten a whistle before.
That is impressive. That is very impressive. So, Laura, this is